Income share agreements are the hot new thing in Silicon Valley, but a lot of critics are comparing them to indentured servitude. Are income share agreements the new indentured servitude? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Craig and welcome to Market Power, where we look at the power of markets and economics to shape our world. Income share agreements are this hot new labor market arrangement that seem to be appearing mostly in Silicon Valley, though we've seen them in a few other locations as well. The poster child of income share agreements is Lambda School, a coding school that promises to prepare its students for jobs in the tech industry for zero upfront costs. The hitch is you need to promise to share some of your future income with them once you get a job that meets certain qualifications. Critics of income share agreements are calling it the new indentured servitude, and I just think that this is such a bad approach to what's going on here. What I want to do is give you a history of indentured servitude and what the problem was they were trying to overcome, and now what income share agreements are trying to overcome, and we'll see that they share some similarities, okay? Like, I don't think it's that wrong to call it the new indentured servitude, as long as you're focusing on this part where it's an institution that helps us overcome a serious problem in the labor market. But in terms of, is this some new form of quasi-slavery, they just couldn't be more wrong. So let me explain these principles to you the best way that I know possible, using Marvel action figures. What led to the rise of indentured servitude? Well, first you had somebody in America who had work, but no workers. But over in England, there were plenty of workers. These workers over in England would be happy to go to the Americas and work if only they can get there. The problem is, there's a pretty big barrier in between the worker and the work. Bridging that gap isn't that hard if you have money. But if you're the kind of worker that wants to go to the Americas, you probably don't have that money. So, how do we get this worker over to the work? Well, one thing he might be able to do is to borrow money. He could go into debt, and with that debt, he could pay for his passage across the gap. But remember, we're talking about the 1600s here. It's gonna be really hard to keep track of this guy once he's on the other side of the world. How do we make sure he repays that debt? So while debt is an option, there aren't very many creditors who would be willing to give money to somebody and possibly never see them again. This is where indentured servitude came in. This was a solution to this problem of getting the poor worker over to where he could make a lot more money. Somebody with lots of money over here in Europe would find a worker and say, hey, how about you sell me a couple years of your work? And if you do that, I can remove this barrier and pay for your transportation across the ocean. Then when he would arrive here, he would then sell that labor to the guy in the Americas. And he would come home with lots of money for selling that labor. The worker benefits because he's now made it across the ocean to the Americas, and even though he has to give up a few years of his life to working for this guy, he has the future ahead of him where he's able to work in the Americas and have really high wages. There's a reason why I chose the Hulk for this example, and that's because indentured servants are a lot like the Hulk in that they can't control themselves to some extent, right? The Hulk doesn't always get to choose his actions. He is a servant to his passions, to his emotions, to his anger, whatever it is that's driving him at that moment. And so the Hulk does not control some aspect of his life. Similarly, indentured servants, they couldn't control their labor for a few years. They were indentured to whoever bought that labor. In fact, if he was done with this labor before the contract expired, he could sell the rest of that contract to another employer in the Americas, and the Hulk would be forced to go and work for that person as well. Those were the labor market problems 400 years ago. What are the problems that we're facing today that this income share agreement is trying to overcome? Today, the industry where jobs are growing the most is tech. We have lots of tech firms who are starved for talent. And the problem isn't that the talent is located far away. The problem is that we have people who would be willing to take those jobs if only they could be trained. They are lacking the human capital that will make them productive in that firm. Spider-Man wants to go over and be in that tech industry, but the problem is 4 years of courses where most of them are unrelated to the skills he's going to need to succeed in the tech industry, and tons of debt are preventing him from getting that education. That's where these income share agreements step in. We have somebody here who has the money and the means to quickly train Spider-Man to have the skills he needs to succeed in the industry. And the agreement is, hey, I will train you if you will just give me a portion of your income for a few years after you graduate. Spider-Man says, hey, this is a great deal, and then he gets the human capital he needs to come over and be in the tech industry. Can we say that income share agreements are indentured servitude? They're not the same thing, but they are trying to solve similar problems, right? Both of them are trying to get workers to high productivity jobs, and that's great for us. The main difference is that indentured servants did not have choice over which jobs they took, whereas people under income share agreements can choose, right? They still have that freedom. The voluntary arrangement that the indentured servants make is that they're giving away that labor. They sign away a few years of their life to pay for that transit across the sea. Under an income share agreement, on the other hand, you are voluntarily sacrificing some of your future income in return for human capital. Now, that's what you're doing when you get in debt anyway, right? When you get in debt, you're signing a contract that says you will sacrifice future money to pay off this debt. Like, to have this arrangement work, you need to have the school invested in the student, giving them the type of human capital that they need to succeed in the labor market, and helping them find those jobs that are suitable for that income. That's where Lambda School really seems to be innovating, is on making sure they have really good placement, right? And if you follow Austin Allred on Twitter, you'll see that he has all these types of examples, right? He tweets all the time, we're trying to get an interview for this person. Let me give you incentives just to interview them, not even to hire them. We will do something for you if you just do an interview. This is because he knows that if his students aren't getting jobs, his entire business fails. And that's exactly what we want from somebody giving us human capital, right? If somebody promises us that the education they give us is going to get us a good job, then they should have some sort of skin in the game. And that's what an income share agreement does. It makes the school have skin in the game. So it's pretty obvious that income share agreements are not indentured servitude. So there's my little spiel on income share agreements. They're something that seemed pretty exciting. It's this new evolving labor market relation going on primarily in Silicon Valley. If you have any questions about income share agreements, put them in the comments below. I'd love to know what you are interested in with income share agreements, and if there's some aspect of it that I'm missing. Also, if you're from Lambda School, let me know if you're interested in talking. I would love to have you on my channel. We could talk about a little bit more about what Lambda School is doing. Thanks for watching Market Power today. Remember to subscribe and also to check out some of my other videos. Also look in the description below. I've got a link to my Twitter page and also to my newsletter. We'll see you next time on Market Power.